program is a part of a series exploring careers in entertainment, film, TV, and the media industries. And in today's program, director and producer Kimberly Browning will have a conversation with lighting designer Christian Epps. So I'm going to start by introducing our presenters today, but while I'm doing that, we'd love to learn a little bit more about you. So please say hello to us in the chat and share with us what you're hoping to get out of the conversation today and where you are in your kind of career journey or level of interest in this topic. So first, I'd like to introduce Kimberly Browning, who will be moderating our conversation. Kimberly is a filmmaker based in LA and is the founder and festival director of Hollywood Shorts Film Festival, which launched in 1998. She is an associate film programmer at Tribeca Film Festival and a senior programmer at Catalyst Content Festival. She has been the executive producer of HBO Access since 2015 and is now part of the new Warner Media Access programs team, developing emerging writers and directors in episodic television. And we have Christian Epps, who is the founder and CEO of Lights Camera Diaspora, a Los Angeles-based social enterprise nonprofit that bridges the gap between the African and African diaspora entertainment industries. His career as a lighting designer has spanned more than 3 decades, covering the range from major motion pictures, broadcast television, commercials, live theater, dance, music videos, and special events. Directors include Ava DuVernay, Spike Lee, Hype Williams, Andrew Dosunmu. Talent include First Lady Michelle Obama, President Bill Clinton, Michael Jackson, Barbara Streisand, Whitney Houston, Nick Cannon, and Kevin Hart. And recent projects include American Horror Story, Selma, Lovecraft Country, and Black is King for Beyonce. And with that, I will hand it over to Kimberly to start us off.
Hi everybody. Welcome and happy holidays to you. I'm so excited to wrap up this part of our series with one of my favorite departments, talking about lighting and all of the amazing job opportunities that are there in this section. So so excited to have my buddy Christian and my colleague Christian. We've had the joy to get to create art together for a very long time, and our careers have grown at the same time. So it's been really cool to see all the amazing collaborations, Christian, that you've been on along the way since I've known you. Your career just keeps exploding. But I'd love to talk about kind of how you started and what was your first interest in the arts at all? What was your first art language, and talk about school and what you thought you were going to study at first, and just talk about the onset of your life as an artist.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. Nice to see you, as usual. I I got it. I think I mentioned you earlier. I was a terrible student. I had mostly C's and a few D's and at least one F on every report card up until 10th grade. 11th grade, I literally stumbled into life. I wasn't a terrible human and all of that, but I just was not interested. I saw a report card. The teacher wrote 4 different teachers on the report card I just saw from my 10th grade year. What a pity, not using himself, doesn't do his work, missing this, everything was bad. 11th grade, I got into the technical theater program at a high school. We moved to Atlanta. I got in because you could get out of class early. Literally, it was the theater program was the last 2 hours of the day, and that meant you didn't have regular classes. So I said, sign me up. Literally, it was that simple, how to get out of class. And so what I ended up doing was I didn't sing, perform, didn't have any interest in any of that, didn't play an instrument. So I got on the technical crew, and that was literally all it was.
Amazing.
And I loved it so much because this is one of the things I love. So for those who don't know, I do lighting in various versions. I design lights for theater. I design direct lighting in live events like concerts and comedy shows and award shows, things like that. I do lighting for film and television, like regular sort of things you see at night for an hour on TV stations. But basically I do lighting in all these different formats. So, but one of the things I love about what I do, and I literally said this yesterday morning while walking around on set, it's just like being a 12-year-old and making something.
Wow.
Um, we people in my business, behind the scenes, typically camera, grip, electric, lighting, sound, props, set design, special effects, visual effects, all this stuff. It's like being a kid in a way. You think of some stuff and you make it. Somebody says, "Hey, let's make a cool place with some plants behind you and you go out and you just figure out how to make it."
Yeah.
Um, it becomes more complex, obviously, as you grow into professionals, but that is the part that I
I love
love about.
that. I love that. So when you were at school and you discovered theater, when you
Yes,
started thinking about life past high school, what was the
yes,
family's perspective? What was even your perspective of
yeah.
love this?
Mm.
When did it become from a hobby to, what did you pursue after high school? What were your thoughts?
Well, I was fortunate in that my mother was always growing up, my mother was always very much into creative things. She
Okay.
would get to see shows. She was always reading, so I read books a lot, which is the major, if there's one thing, reading, reading is the thing that plants the most ideas in your head about your life. Um, and she would like take furniture and repaint it. And so I was used to growing up in a home where those sorts of things were a part of it. So when I fell into it in high school, it didn't feel abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
So what I ended up doing was I did that for 2 years, absolutely loved it. When it was time to go to college, I was like, I'm not getting a real job.
Yeah.
Like, why would I go study for,
Yeah.
for that? So I just was like, forget it. Life is short and there's no guarantee about tomorrow. So I'm going to pursue something that I think feels good. Um, so I went into Howard University for technical theater. I got a BFA in technical theater from Howard. And that was good because, I thought I tried to go to Georgetown because my sister was there, but I didn't have the grades for it. As I mentioned earlier, I was not. And it turned out to be a blessing because Howard was open to everybody,
Right.
regardless of your economic situation. And they made particular effort regarding your grades to see the good part of what you're bringing,
Your
right?
potential.
Yeah, potential. Um, and so that's what I did. I'm just going to do theater and see how it works. Um, One thing that was a big turning point, which I think is important, as an idea of how to manage yourself and career changes. A friend of mine went and did summer theater somewhere. Uh, One of my classmates, the lighting guy at that place, at that summer theater, got sick. He called me and he said, "Hey, can you come?" I was like, "Yes." And literally to this day, say yes has been a theme of my life where you see a thing that you like, that you want, that you think is important or valuable to you, say yes and figure out the bumps and the bruises later on because we're going to have them no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So we go for stability, but that's got politics, it's got wage depression issues, it's got, health issues depending on where you live. Nowadays, corporate is not stable for anyone anymore anyway, right?
Right.
Government's not stable as an employer anymore. So stability is no longer a thing,
Right.
in our society. So
That quote
go for the
unquote real
thing you want.
job. Right.
Yeah,
I
get
love
a
that
real job.
perspective.
So I say yes if it's a thing, and then yeah, okay. So theater didn't come with a lot of money, but I loved the work. It came with a lot of travel, came with a lot of interesting people, a lot of seeing different things, and so you still benefit,
Yeah.
right? That you want.
And
And that's important.
and then how did you transition? What was your first opportunity that was in film and TV where you were able to translate your theater knowledge and your stagecraft that it would
And
apply to filmed
yeah,
production?
interesting. In film, it was Spike Lee. I was in New York because I knew theater was in New York, so I'd moved to New York to go to NYU for grad school. Um, left left there after the first year because I did not enjoy the environment in that department.
Interesting. Okay.
And people think, oh wow, you left NYU. I had a tuition cut. But if your life is not in the format, shape, environment, energy that you want, should not be obligated to continue.
Yeah. Listen to your gut.
Listen to your gut, because that's where you want to live anyway. So why live someplace you don't want to be? But also, so I was in theater, not making enough money. I was married. My son was born. No, he was on the way or something like that. I think he was on the way. And I talked to a theater designer friend and said, hey, you work with Spike Lee in film and TV. They make more money. Can I come PA for you in art department for the day so I can meet the lighting people? Did that. I don't know what I did. As a PA, you do whatever is asked of you. I walked over, introduced myself to the lighting guys, and they said, yeah, sure. So the next 2 days I worked in lighting as a PA or whatever, no skill in that film and TV. And that became the next 10 years. Because what they want is someone who is trying, someone who has a commitment to being involved and, who's trying.
Yeah.
Who's trying to do good, trying to make it look nice, who's trying to work well with others, whatever it is you're trying, that's what we want. That's what everybody wants. And it's still the way we get gigs today when we're young and starting out, or when we're
That's right.
It's
so your first opportunity just happened to be a Spike Lee joint.
That was,
did you at the time realize how transformative that was going to be?
I'm finishing your sentence. No. Right? I'm cutting you. No, I did not. Literally about 10 years ago, it started washing over me how fortunate that is.
How you said yes to the opportunity and created your own.
Created just asking some, please, can I come carry bricks or whatever.
Which film was that?
No, that was a music video. And then it became the next music video, and then the first film, was Mo Better Blues. So, and that's also an important thing.
You would earn the trust of the team, and they kept hiring you back, and you kept moving up.
And because I did theater, I knew lighting, lecos, and control boards, which were not in the film at the time.
Right.
Which were not in the film business.
Business didn't use those tools.
So right. So I did the theatrical lighting in the nightclub for Mo Better Blues.
That's genius.
It's genius. I didn't plan it. They was just like, oh, you know
how to do
boards and all that. And it's an important moment because I was a union intern, because Spike made sure we had interns in every department. I don't know, I wasn't an intern. I was a union trainee officially.
An apprentice. Yeah.
An apprentice. And what was important was that for me, one of the things that's important for me was that I didn't know the environment. I didn't know the people. I didn't know their language of how to do these things, but I know a light that should be here. And I was willing to say it and be the leader in my little area. So I was willing to have my own opinion and to let it be known and to be part of the conversation, as opposed to staying back and being shy and timid.
Right. You had information that was part of the solution.
And I'm willing to say it, and
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you came up kind of on a lot of Spike.
A lot.
I spent stayed with that crew for a while.
Mm-hmm. They were a definite cornerstone to my life, even to now. I did a thing right before COVID with Spike, a Cadillac commercial or something.
Yeah.
And also the 90s was an important time for African Americans in particular, because hip hop was a thing, music videos were now a thing, and the visuals of them were a thing. And a lot of that was in New York with Hype Williams, who I worked with.
Yeah.
And what's important about that now, to tie that to now, is that when there's a new thing in the system, becoming a part of it early on can be very advantageous to you and is important. So now we're getting into VR, AR, this whole VR, AR, metaverse conversation.
Yeah.
It's new. There's 1 million openings right now, and almost nobody knows what it is.
Right.
So there's opportunities.
Lean into those opportunities.
There's opportunities to say, yes, I'll jump in and help. I'll jump in and help shape it, and it'll shape me, and we'll all grow together.
Amazing. So talk a little bit about, let's start with film and TV.
Okay.
What we call it a gaffer, which is, or the TV calls it the chief lighting technician.
Yes.
Let's talk about is like, what's the job? What you work closest probably with the DP or cinematographer.
DP.
What do you do? Can you get a script? You prepare. What's that DP expecting you to bring to the table? And tell us a little bit about the creative, what lighting impact, like what impact are you trying to accomplish with how you're approaching your job,
Right on. So I, on a very short and basic, simplistic version, I think of how it should look and I try to make it look that way. So I think we did a scene on the project last night. We're in a park out in Arcadia, and it's nighttime, and he's standing under a street light, right? They place him there, but the street light's too far away because it's in the background, and that means his face is not lit, and it's not strong, and so I fake a light off camera nearby to look like it's the street light coming down on him. The DP says, "Oh, we should put a little bounce here." And he mentioned a light that we could use. Oh, well, let's use this other light because it can match the color over here that is coming from this street light. Oh, and then we tilt up so that we can point. And these are all literally just like, you have some image in your head and you figure out, like Lego blocks, like you mentioned before, Lego blocks to try to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
On a more elaborate scale, you get hired 90% by word of mouth. Your friend, somebody heard your name, a reputation, somebody saw you speaking on a panel and liked how you spoke to them, and so you get hired to help execute. That means you figure out the script creative that is handed to you. You add your own ideas to it, right? Somewhere down the line, you've lived through a house party, and this is a house party scene. So you apply your own images in your head.
Yeah.
You've seen your whole life of the beaches in Zanzibar, and now you get a show where that's supposed to be the look. So you have to create what you think that feels like. And by creating that, you go see the locations, you look at the floor plans from the set designer, and you try to imagine what it would look like and what lights it would take to make that look like that. And then so that's all pre-production. And then more basic pre-production, we hire electricians, we hire a generator, we write out equipment list for this idea that we have in our head. We work with other team members. I have a best boy in my department to help flush out ideas and labor and schedules and budgets. We work with a rigging gaffer who takes the idea, goes ahead of you and tries to set up what you ask, knowing what you're thinking and how the business might work, and they try to interpret on your behalf.
Yeah.
He is expecting you in general to absorb their ideas and execute them, and even more importantly, to expand them, right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
So
he says it should be sunny.
yeah,
And
you've
want you
mentioned
to say,
several different kind of crew positions, and we're going to add a link where you all can do a deeper dive into both on the grip and electric, the different job positions and how you go from one to the other, what the hierarchy is, and a little bit of a sketch of what those jobs details are. And Caroline's going to add that to the chat for us. So as you are reading a script for the first time, especially when you're working with a cinematographer that maybe it's the first time you've gotten the opportunity to collaborate, you spent time looking at their body of work, because that's probably how they got hired, is they do a vibe kind of well. So you've got that backup. You're looking at the script and how light and the different types of lighting really enhance the tone or the world that you're trying to build, whether it's a comedy, it's a thriller, it's a horror film. Lighting is one of the signature elements that really helps the audience know what's happening. So how
Yes.
do you navigate when you first read a script? What is it in that script that informs you of here's some concepts that I can bring to the table that I think are going to work? What are you
Yes.
looking for that triggers your creativity of, oh my God, and then we're going to do this. And this is going to transport the audience to 2040,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Uh-huh. Well, the best answer I can give you for our audience today is you if you, mm, there are different people that in my area that are more technical and more creative, right? I tend to be on the more creative side in terms of gaffers and
Mhm.
lighting directors and all of that. Um, there's many things about my job. Some lights I don't know how to even turn on, literally,
Right.
and without a crew, I'd be lost. Um, but what really is important is figuring out your path. There are guys who are much better at the technical execution of this amount of equipment, this time of day, this voltage, this color temperature, this light meter, this, right? And that's all of great value as well.
Mm-hmm.
So my part of it, I tend to rely mostly on how we've gotten to know each other in pre-production. We try to hang out together. We share an office together. We live in the same house, and if we're out on location and
Right.
sharing places, so we get to understand how each other thinks and communicates. When he says it should be this or she says it should be that, we begin to understand what they really mean, right?
When I hear you
Um,
say that, I hear that you listen a lot, that you
if we're
listen
doing our
for
job,
information and for cues. Yeah, that you're observational in that way of ingesting because they'll tell you what they want. I think that's, and I love how you frame that because some people might think, oh, I've got to be super amazing artist. I've got to be a painter or a photographer and know
no,
all these
no.
things about the tech of light. And you're saying they're really successful people in the lighting department that are good at the tech, that are good
And
at the operations that can be really successful too.
who are sitting there doing my exact same job, who
Yeah.
are not invested at all in what it looks like
Yeah.
at
Because
all.
and both approaches can be really successful.
They're totally valid because the
Yeah.
DP says I need this big light over here and it should be soft and it should be, and you get it done quickly, efficiently with the right equipment. And
Because
he
you
says,
know
yeah, I like it, shoot.
HMI and tungsten and what needs to go where because you know the tech. So I
That-
think that's so great because it really includes people that might feel like, oh, I'm not artistic enough to
That's
work
right.
in this
That's
space.
right. There are many people in my department who are not artistic at all,
Right.
and
I love
are phenomenally valuable. Now we have, because the equipment is very technical. It's the LEDs and all of the electronics behind it, the lighting control networks, it's Wi-Fi. We're running fiber in the lighting department now, where if you don't know the technology, I can't hire you.
wow.
I
That's
literally,
amazing.
right? Because it's all, it's just like cars. Cars used to be simple, like a Volkswagen with a rod and a bolt.
Yeah.
Now they all have computers and,
Now they're going to be
so
mini
right.
spaceships coming
That's
up
right.
in the next 10 years.
That's right. That's right.
So when you are, as you came up through the ranks, you came up as a juicer? You came up through electric, or did you come up through grit, or
No,
did you swing?
no, only electrics, only lighting. I did commit. I knew I started doing theater and I was like, okay, film and TV financially with a family, that made some sense
Yeah,
to add that, but I never gave up the theater because what you love is what you should hold on to,
right.
right? Um, and then also, um, at the same time, I had to decide, do I do sort of what you're saying? Do I work as an electric? And I worked as a gaffer on small projects in film, music videos, commercials,
Yeah,
small TV as a gaffer, not as electric, because I knew I wasn't strong in
start to
electric
build your
anyway.
gaffy body of work and
And
learn on the job.
that's right.
Yeah,
Well, and we're all going to learn. And there's things that I don't know today that some third electric knows because he worked for an established gaffer long
yeah,
ago, earlier than me. And you know what I mean? So the both
right.
routes are totally valid. I just knew I was not very good at being an electric. So it didn't make sense for me to try that route, you know. And then marketing wise, you got to decide who you are, right?
Okay.
Like what you're selling matters, right? Some people are selling super creative. Some people are selling super technical. Some people are selling, hey, we slap five and go out and have drinks and dinner afterwards. All of it's
I'm fun to work with. I'm easy to work with, which is a benefit. Sometimes
right.
for the spirit, what we need to do to have a great production, I might hire somebody that maybe isn't as um, amazingly magical because
Right.
really have a positive attitude. They work well with other people. They're team spirit people. Maybe they're a little slower, but that actually manifests more positively
That's right.
in the
That's right.
structure of what we're trying to do than somebody who might be the best gunslinger in town, but he's mean to everybody.
But he's mean.
Or he's a yeller, or he doesn't talk at all and doesn't tell anybody what he wants. Sometimes that actually will slow us down, cost us money, but also you want to be somebody we spend our lives together.
That's
We
right.
could spend 18 hours a day together. I have to think you're fun to be around, or at least easy to be around.
At least easy, not difficult. I got a guy who supposedly is the best so-so gaffer in a country where I travel and work a lot.
Yeah.
And somebody introduced us by WhatsApp. His
Yeah.
first response on WhatsApp was so ugly, I changed his name to Do Not Hire.
Right. And people
He
don't
didn't know me
realize
from,
that,
he didn't know me from Adam.
but he made a first impression that he will never be able to get over.
I wouldn't go near him with a 10-foot pole.
That's really important for people to know. That's an important characteristic that even it's knowing how to share the information that's going to solve the problem without necessarily your emotion and how you feel about the fact that we're having to have the conversation. Because
Yes,
sometimes things change, things always are going to change. There's always going to be things that don't turn on,
that's
people, things that change, scenes that don't work, and you're always on it. We're always on a treadmill of solutions.
that's right.
And I always feel like when I go back and look at who I hire over and over again, who I choose to collaborate over and over again,
Yes.
there are people who just can go with the flow that things have changed and
Yes.
yell and scream and throw things later or
What?
on
Right.
their own. Like
They're
yell
right.
and scream and feel how you feel, but for here and now, how can you just flip into that? Let's solve it and figure out why later, right?
And as types of jobs go, part of that is knowing who you are as a person.
Mm.
If you need stability, if you need predictability, then maybe post-production is better for you.
Sure.
Maybe marketing is better where you're more consistent 9 to 5
Less
project
freelancer kind
planning.
of lifestyle.
Right, right. We're on set. I'm on set. My lifestyle is in the fire.
That's
Right.
right. I love that. I think patience, like you are extremely patient. You will listen to what the director's trying to say. You will listen as the DP and the director are figuring out what it is they want, and you
Yeah.
listen. But then when we tried it, it doesn't work. You always are okay. Here's what we have that can solve it. To give him like you're just really patient, especially with up and coming filmmakers, which is why I love you around when we are getting to support really new, amazing artists.
Yeah.
What is it about? What are the types of personalities that grab your attention when you're hiring grip and electrics for your teams? What do you have on
Good
set?
question.
What skill sets, what personality types work well with your kind of crews?
So I'm at a point now where my crews are generally of a nice size, right? So I have a variety of personalities, and I am looking to answer your question. I'm looking to see which ones you are, right? Are you the technical guy who really knows how to fix the widget that's broken, that knows which button to press to make the thing, because it's all software and ones and zeros in a large part of this, right? And that's important. I'm looking to see that are you the team leader who's going to energize everybody to run up the hill, right? That's cool. Are you the thoughtful paperwork, organized to where, okay, next week we need 50 of those, 3 of these, 10 of these, we need it ordered by, we need the approvals through the front. Are you that person?
Yeah,
Right.
logistics.
Are you, hey, whatever you need, I'll jump in, right? What I also am looking for is to make sure you're not, I know the answers.
Mm,
No matter what area you're at, that doesn't work well with other humans. I know, everything,
yeah.
you know. What I also want to make sure you're not is afraid, right? I was on a job on that Colin in Black and White, the New York Gaffer. We were there for 2 weeks. I had to hire a local gaffer through the New York local. I called his referral, who I knew was a very skilled and very challenging DP to work for. I said, "Hey, how about this guy, Justin?" One of the DP's comments was, "He's not afraid of anything."
Mm,
I said, "Bet he's hired." Because if this challenging DP, who's very highly skilled, and he's only challenging because he's so highly skilled, most people don't function at a higher level like he does.
sure.
I said, well, if he says he's not afraid, then he can learn everything else. Justin, if there's, and he didn't need to learn anything really. We had to get on the same page about how I work, but he didn't need to learn anything.
What
But he's
you
not
needed.
afraid. He's not afraid, which
I
means
love that.
whatever it is, he'll be right beside me.
And that's where some of the best ideas come from, right? Is
Yeah, we don't
the
know what
team
tomorrow is.
coming up with solutions. I think also one of the things I know when I'm working with my department heads is the responsibility is coming up more and more. As say, of all the jobs in all of the set, the electricians and the grips are the most dangerous. They are
Yeah.
responsible for the safety of everybody else. To be
Yes.
the generator operator,
Yes.
to be just electric. Electric's one of the positions where you have to be certified at some level along the way
Yes.
to continue to
Yes.
rise up. As a PA, you're going to be taking electricity classes and courses, and we're going to share with
Yes.
you guys some resources of the Southern California training programs and some others, both as a PA, but also if you're interested in lighting, getting into these training programs to learn how to become a certified electrician is going to be really important. And really, people who take it to understand that lives are at stake. People can die on set, and
That's right.
And of all of the departments, you're responsible for electricity. So somebody, our department goes to plug in something that's coming off a lunchbox and it's not routed correctly, you could really hurt or kill somebody.
Absolutely.
I've had a camera assistant get electrocuted on set as she was putting a BNC cable into the back of a monitor, and the electricity arced, and it was an accident. But again, she could have died had it not been properly distributed. That was the cable malfunction. But had electricity not been dispersed correctly across the set, she could have died. And
it has to be grounded. It has to be in the right size cable. Yeah.
So navigating, I love what you said, and I want to double down on it. It's also the one department that's most important. If you don't know, it's okay to say this is where you have the opportunity to learn. And if there's any department, to not fake it till you make it, this is it. Because you can't act like you know something, because it'll slow production down and it's unnecessary. We don't expect our squads to know everything. We learn from each other. Being able to say, let me find out, or how do I do it? Teach me, is a really great skill set I love.
Yeah, the fastest way to become knowledgeable is to say I don't know, because then people will see you.
Yeah, I love when somebody says I haven't learned that yet, because I'm more inclined to be like, okay, let me teach you. So as opposed to somebody who said they knew what they were doing,
says something about their intention, right? I don't know, and I'm intending to learn so that I will know. I'm open to knowing, right? Just that word "yet" at the end of it says a lot.
For you to teach me, and I love it when that comes. That inspires me to help my team learn and grow, and make sure that as a producer and a line producer, I work really hard to make sure, like when we're working together, that I'm bringing together people that will really grow learning from you, because you do things the way I think they will blossom. And so we are all really thoughtful about, because each way we work together, we're learning from each other. So it's always an opportunity that I get excited when I can choose one of our hatchlings to get to work with you and learn in real time. So
one of our
trying to
things
shift.
about
Yeah, go ahead.
one of our things about learning um, is once we acknowledge that, you know, in my world, we work on how many jobs in the course of a year. 20 is a low number for me.
Yeah.
50. I've always figured 30 to 50 jobs.
People, TV could work on 5-6 shows in a year. If
Easy.
it's kind of big
Commercials,
or Iron Man,
video.
that could be your whole year, but you could be working for 9 months in 4 different countries with 4 different languages, 4 different electrical like circuits.
And 50 different sets, right? Each with their own new equation necessary, right?
And if it's a musical or a performance show, like Side Story or Glee, then you've got the theater components inside of that.
That's right. So in all that variety, no one with good sense expects people to know everything, right? There's a foundation, yes, as you mentioned, and we do have to do, as you don't have to have anything to get in. You have to have things, you have to have those skill sets to stay in, and as you said, to advance, right?
Yeah.
So in our union, you have to take your safety classes before you can be officially certified to work in the union, right? For all those same reasons. So one of the things that is important is we don't have to know anything to get in the business. You can show up and say, hey, Kimberly, I want to work. Can I work for you? Right? And then we have to do a good job of harnessing that information that is in front of us. But Kimberly doesn't expect anybody to know their first day, right? They never done anything. Their first day in the business, there's no expectation other than be nice.
Yeah.
Be cool.
And don't complain.
Right? Be cool. All that is, right? And so it becomes a very low bar of entry, and I really mean the first day in the business.
It really is. It's a perfect entry department to this business.
No matter your background, no matter your understanding of the world, there are places where you can start from zero and get in. Office jobs,
a week.
driving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Driving a van. The people who make a bunch of money driving a van.
The equipment.
From one place to a regular van on a regular street. We're not talking racing. We're not talking film. Just driving a van.
And I love it when we get people from where their backgrounds was they were fruit haulers, they were grocery store truck drivers, because they know every route in town. They know safety, because many times those trucks hold the most expensive part of our budget is in that equipment on the trucks. They know safety, they know protocols, and they don't do dumb stuff, right? Like they just don't go off on a tangent. They tend to be regimented. You know what to expect. They're not going to throw surprises. They're going to stay safe. I love
one set I worked on in Charlotte for 3 years in a row. The set construction crew and lighting and set on that project came from the college football team. My brother-in-law was the coach. They were electrics and grips.
I love it.
It was great because they show up on time. They work as a team. They're not afraid of hard work. They follow instructions. They assume we're a family and we're trying to get it done. There's a hierarchy and they respect it.
Yeah.
They were great. Any football team, soccer team has a mentality of let's accomplish the thing together and work hard.
And it goes.
So there's openings in our business for all types of people, right? That's really great. And then you have to do a good job to continue excelling.
And there is a physicality to it, which we've listed some production assistant programs. Like you were saying, Christian, you literally could show up on a short film or music video or a smaller show, and we'll take PAs for that department if you haven't really PA'd a lot, you can say, I want to be a production assistant, assign me to the grid, assign me to lighting, because that's the best way to learn. If a young PA or first timer comes in and doesn't designate, I might ask them some questions, and I might put them in costume, I might put them with camera, but going in with intentionality of, oh, I'm training to be a key grip, then I know where to sign you. And I love people that have at least done that bit of work. But also, if you don't know, this is the place to find out what you did. Spend 2 days with each department, and you can figure out what you connect with, and
what you might be interested in.
That I want more, and you can speak what you want out loud.
That's right. You could just say, hey, I like building stuff. Hey, I like writing. Hey, I like cooking. Whatever, just whatever, like you say, whatever fits, we can steer you towards some of those things.
Right. So you can discover and learn. This is a department where there is some physicality that is required for the job. It is first on set, last on set, and you are lugging heavy gear. So some of the requirements also is that you are strong, or that you can do manual labor for long amounts of time.
Yes, that's right.
So I think when I was coming up, just because of the way gender norms, there weren't many women in that space when I was growing up, because it was a job for big, strong men. I think things are really changing, and they're really changing quickly. Can you talk a little bit about how leadership and top department heads like yourself are changing the game in terms of women in these positions?
I think anybody, now this is my own bias, I think anybody who's paid attention in society knows that women are better members of society than men. They're more balanced emotionally, in terms of like interacting with other humans. They're more aware of the space. Men tend to be, I think I know, So that's why I now expect most of the middle management on my projects to be women, because they have a version of social interaction that's more sophisticated than many men.
Makes them good team leaders.
Makes them good team leaders.
Yeah.
Awareness, sensitivity to others, nothing to do with the job itself, but just awareness and sensitivity to others, and communication, and all these things. But so now in my department, I've got one young lady, Amy, who works with me all the time for the last 2 years, off and on 3 years. Cricket does the technology very well. Oh, Heather just finished on this Thor project I did, where her job was systems tech, because technology, it's Wi-Fi networks, it's fixture addressing, it's it's making 50 pieces of equipment talk to each other electronically and through wires and wireless and all of this stuff. So her job was systems tech, right?
So there's more points of entry with modern production techniques that your department's responsible for a lot more, that people with IT and computer knowledge and software knowledge.
And computer, and it's a natural fit. It's a natural fit now in the lighting department, right? And so we've got folks, typically guys, who are older, been in the business 30 years, but they just have not picked up the technology, and it hinders them.
Right.
So the young people who have understanding technology have an advantage in that area.
That's really great insight. When we think about new and what's forward state, future state for your department and production, there's so many new types of entertainment, holographic and AR, VR, volumetric. And also there's new tech. So if somebody's starting out today, and there's a lot of, I can get on and I can do a lot of self-training and learn. There's so many LinkedIn Learning. There's other links that we've included where there's so many great programs. We're going to send you the link to this great key grip, who has a whole website about grip tips, and it's got a video series. Oh yeah. And yeah, he's great. And there's so much great self-learning that we can accomplish on our own. What are the things that are next that you think people need to start reading and digging around about of how environmental issues, running green sets, new technology, like you were just mentioning,
Yes.
how is it changing the game? The 728, which is your union, has one of the most robust continued education training
Yes.
programs. It's one of the groups that I feel facilitates and expects training all the way through your career. You
Yes.
are constantly
Yes.
learning and training. And so how has that manifested? What are the new things that the 728 having you guys learn or giving opportunity to learn? How is
Yeah.
technology changing your
Yeah.
job?
Well, one of the ongoing paths of class is a very combination between programming and drafting, right? So in my world, you could just be a drafts person. On bigger shows, on this last
Can
Thor
you
project,
define what that is? What a drafts person is?
just like blueprints that people, if you don't know the business, blueprints like you see for a house plan, but these have the set or the location underneath and then lights on top. This light here, this kind of light here, and it's all just literally a blueprint, just a floor plan, but very complex as you get bigger and bigger in the industry, right? So I had a draftsman who literally stayed at home and drafted, and that was his payroll job for a month,
And was
right?
able to work remotely.
And was able to work remotely. On the
Amazing.
same thing in New York, the Con in Black and White for Ava DuVernay, we had a draftsman. I didn't meet him until about a month ago, and that show was last year. And he drafted for me all through the holidays of
Right.
last year, doing CAD drawings, computer aided drafting, just as it sounds. It's very basic blueprint and our union teaches those CAD programs on a regular basis, and also programming lighting. So if you are already technical in the way of like software and computer screens, and you're the one in the house who does that stuff,
Who
you've
rigs
got the
it all
brain
up?
you've got the brain to transition to programmer in the lighting department, which almost every show has now. Big shows, small shows, most of the non-union shows have a what we call board operator also. And you see the moving light shows, you see the big award shows with the flashing lights and the music concerts and those all have very, very well-skilled technical people who are programmers. And like anything else, they start out on smaller shows and work their way up.
Mhm.
So that's a whole career path as a programmer, which is different than being an electrician, different than being a gaffer, different than being a rigger, than a best boy, So there's lots of ways. Also, one of the things that West LA College has a program to bring people from outside of the industry into it. They walk this
Amazing.
line very well as well. They have union collaboration with it as well to help people. So
So
when you get out,
union and getting them integrated with 728 and the 80. That's
you're
fantastic. I think there are a couple other schools. We're going to send you guys a list of all of the schools in Southern California and a couple internationally or across the US that have some sort of training program for one or both of these sections as well. But I didn't know about that program in West LA, so that's really great to hear.
West LA College. And what else? Where were we?
Well, talk a little bit about new tech. If I was just starting
Yeah.
out, learning
Yes.
CAD, I think is great.
Is one.
And it,
Oh, yes, I
yeah,
got
so
it. Gotcha.
what
Okay.
what's new? What's coming up? What should I be knowing about in terms of new tech?
The beautiful part is young people, and in that way we say young as opposed to transition, but young people are already geared towards screens, software, technology, by nature of phones and laptops and,
Yeah,
stream, all of this stuff. They're already oriented that way.
digital.
So
They're not analog the way we grew up. Yeah.
yeah. So they're already off to a good start in terms of wanting to understand and learn more about that.
Okay.
And where it's headed. And I don't claim to be, the scientist futurist on where it's all going to land, but where it's headed now in terms of screens and in computer work, we just did 4 weeks on this Thor movie, and 80% of it was blue screen. Because in computer, they're going to go back and add and change and they want, when you read those movies credits, there's one at the top, and then there's 50. And those are all entry people those people all start at entry level and do parts of creating these environments. So
Right.
Kimberly's actually sitting in front of a blue screen and she wants to add plants and lights and chairs and stuff behind her.
Yeah,
These are simple ideas. And now our phones are doing it in a very simple manner.
that's
That
right.
just speaks to how widespread the technology is, where it's becoming mass adopted.
Yeah.
But also in that frame of mind for young people or for people who are transitioning into the industry, there's a lot of room for AR, VR, uh, creative
Mm-hmm.
because it's all new, right? So if you have an idea about costume design in a sort of traditional sense, they're doing it in AR and VR as well,
And in
right?
games and
And
NFTs even. They're dropping
that's
entire NFTs and digitally creating even wardrobe, fashion, objects, props. Mm-hmm.
yes. If
And
you
all
have
that
an
neat
idea,
lighting tech too.
yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. Everything, I dare say, everything you see is lighting, period, whether
It's
it's in
true.
computer or not. Because if you see it in a computer, someone had to think, what does Kimberly look like when
Mm-hmm.
there's light on her face in this manner?
Right.
And then they create that. So someone designed the lighting, even though there's no actual light
Yeah.
in the computer, right? There's
Yeah.
simulations. And so if you understand that, you begin to see that, oh yeah, AR, VR has amazing opportunities that tie into aspects of the world we already know.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of where things are headed, volume work is a term we use for, in a video wall environment where the content of the video wall is
Yeah.
exemplifies where we are. So there's a person standing on a stage surrounded by video wall, and that video wall has a Star Trek uh, uh, nightclub scene,
Mm-hmm.
has sand dunes. That video wall has ships in outer space. That video wall has, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and
And
some of like
we're seeing Mandalorian.
Mandalorian,
All the season, all last season, Mandalorian was on a soundstage.
that's
With
right.
them
And
volumetric.
now what we're
You'll
doing,
hear the word volumetric used as well in this space. Same thing. Mm-hmm.
uh and now what we're doing is sometimes the video walls are the backdrops. So traditionally, you, Kimberly, would be on a set and there'd be plants and there'd be a
Mm-hmm.
sky backdrop out there. Now you're on a set and that window is not a window, it's a video wall.
It's
And we
now
put in a tree, we
established,
put in the sky, we put in transoms on the window, we put in the lights, all in the video wall. So people who were the tech kid in high school can now easily see a straight line to a career in a volumetric environment, right?
and so I think that's a great way to segue into this next part, which is so becoming a production assistant, and then getting starting to kind of hang out with the Griffin Electric, trying to get assigned to those positions, trying to find people that you love that you feel would be good to teach you. They'll take, if they feel your enthusiasm, a grip or an electric's gonna take you under their wing and be like, move that. And
That's
that's really literally a relationship based way of getting it. Get on the set, be a trained production assistant who understands how the program goes, and we've going to list a bunch of training programs. The other avenue I think people don't think about is vendors. And so we've also
Oh, yes.
be including a list of vendors and stages, some of the facilities that have volumetric studios now. They all tend to have their own indoor lighting, and they have rigs that are permanent, and places that are shooting 360, places that are shooting 3D, as well as all the vendors, all the Grip Electric vendors. Because if you work, say, at Wood and Nickel in Burbank, if you work
Yes.
for a year, you're going to learn what everything is. You're going to
Yep.
learn what it's called, and you will learn the needs of people. As people are coming in and packing the trucks, and you talk to them, you'll start to hear and learn
How it
what
works.
it is, and you meet everybody.
And you
Because
meet
you're meeting
everybody.
all the key grips. You're meeting all the gaffers that swing by to make sure what they have on the truck's right. And you're meeting all the hammers, which
That's
are the guys that tend to refer. When I'm crewing up a show, I crew up my department heads, but it's up to Christian and his key grip to decide who's on their teams.
That's right.
I'm not necessarily hiring every single grip and every single electric. I
Not
leave
at
it
all.
to them because they know who's going to work best in the environment. And so those are the relationships to nurture, which you can do really well through getting a job at a vendor. And in this time, because of COVID, a lot of people have left town. A lot of people are still staying home because they have kids at home. So there's more opportunity more than ever for entry level position. So think about that as a way of, you might not be on set right away. When I'm jammed up and I have somebody who's either I'm having a hard time getting a job filled, or I have somebody who had to swap out, I tend to call where I got my gear from. Hey, who you got a couple of grips I could call? I need to add a day, or hey, we've got 2 big days coming up. We're not moving fast enough. I need to add. I'll call the vendor. The other area for me that I get excited is, especially on the grip side, is a path to entrepreneurship. So like you were saying, it's a freelance world mostly. You've got to be really comfortable with that space. But there is an avenue to small business ownership here, because I tend to work a lot with what we call owner operators. So talk a little bit about how, a gaffer will start to build his truck, or a lot of key grips. The guy owns the truck. Over the 10 years, he's been adding to his kit, and now he'll have a 1 ton or a 2 ton truck. And I love working with those guys because now I don't need a driver. They can drive their own gear, and they are more likely to take care of the gear. They most likely to keep it inventoried. There's more likely less loss and damage. When that person's got his gear on set, it gets dangerous. Yeah.
Right.
But I love that people can create a path to entrepreneurship themselves from, a grip and electric position.
Yes. And one of the things that happens with that is you might work as a third electric on a show, right? But while you're there, you're meeting, as you suggested, all the other players and stakeholders above you in that chain of command of equipment and staffing and gaffers and vendors and all that. And in the process, you can start purchasing equipment to then rent, right? People sub out equipment all the time. You work on a show and the rigging gaffer has a couple of carts, and his carts can get put on the show, given, we talk about it out loud, so it's not a secret. And he's making almost as much money in cart rental as he is in wages, right? And this is an early small step that he could take, that one can take. If you get a little start, you get a little network, people like you, then yeah, oh, hey, I got a couple of carts. Can I? There's a ability to make small steps early on, because the equipment is very varied. There's small pieces of equipment we all need, a clamp. There's large pieces, an 18K, right? A truck, right? So you can slowly start, as you suggested, acquiring equipment and renting it out. I've got a couple of guys in my phone book who have specialty gear. They don't buy the regular lights. They only buy the LED new stuff. Right. So I know when we're looking for something, who to call? Guys who own balloons. They're electricians, but they own a balloon. And that becomes a third of their
income. Way to rig it, because there's only a couple people who know how to rig those balloons.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense to maximize the upsell, right?
Upsell. You're upselling in a good way, and not just to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because you buy one piece of equipment. I've got, like I said, another guy, I know he owns some lights, and he may not have them on that show, or I might call him at a point when they're not booked on, or he's in between, whatever. And they're making money for him while he's not there.
That's right. That's right. And I have friends that started out as third grips or construction grips, and they now own their own shops. They started with a small truck, which is a 14-foot cube.
Yeah.
And the smallest film package actually is a modest amount of gear. that's great for small commercials, music videos, short films, and small features. If you're doing a horror film and it's 4 people in a house, you can pull that off with a 1
Yes.
or a 2 ton and a couple of extra lights, right?
That's right.
If you
That's
do
right.
it a lot of daytime, you don't even need that. So it doesn't take a lot of significant amount of money to get yourself into a truck that could work a lot, especially in this town.
That's right. And
And
there's
work
a lot of opportunity to buy used equipment, right?
was it Share Grid?
Share grid. Oh yeah. Now that's another route. You could just offer the services and sub all the equipment or some portion of it from all these various sources. From the big shops, you can sub a particular light. You can sub it from Share Grid, and there's one other one that people use. I forget the name of
Yeah,
it, but
there's another one. And then like my team in Miami, my DP there owns his own shop. He's been an agency guy and he started as a fashion photographer.
yeah,
Then he started when Canon came out in DSLR, he
yeah,
started getting into movie and image.
yes,
And now he's one of the top cinematographers. He does a lot of fashion and lifestyle. So he's got like the Victoria's Secret campaign, he's got a water campaign,
yeah, yeah,
a couple of athletics. And then slowly but surely he started turning his garage into a grip shed. And so slowly every year he bought a red, and then he bought a Black Magic camera. Then he started the gear. He's got everything he needs for any job he books.
yes.
But most of that gear is working on other shows and generating revenue, whether he
Mhm.
leaves the house or not.
That's right. He's in his pajamas. People are using his equipment.
And his
That's right.
guys rent from him, which he knows those guys are going to. So when those guys are on other jobs, they're like, yeah, and I'll give you a deal at my shop. And
Right.
then those guys he knows are going to take care of the gear.
They
If they
hire
know
each
how
other.
things,
They
they
hire.
hire each other. So this is happening across the country. And if you are not in LA, if you're in Oklahoma, Kentucky, Minnesota, in addition to Atlanta, New Orleans, these are areas that New Mexico where
Yes.
production is exploding. And
Is-
all of these people, if you got a bunch of trucks, put a couple of them in New Mexico with a grip that you trust, it will work and generate revenue for you.
That's right. And one of the things that's really great about the direction of all of this, you mentioned AR, VR, and volume and all that stuff. This is only becoming more and more and more and more and more and more, right? So screens, video content, all of this is exploding around the world, regardless of our industry. As an average person walking down the street, everything is about content, screens, more and more and more and more and more. And that is the way the world is going. And so the need for our work is only going up. So like you mentioned, if you're in Oklahoma, if you're in a small town in Montana where there's not much, it's growing. It may not be much today, but whatever it is, it's
It's
growing.
growing. You
It's
could be at the forefront of being there first. You
That's
could be
right.
on the forefront of being the guy that or the woman who begins to build a small business center, a vendor center there, which I'm excited about. I also think even in LA, there's 3 or 4 major significant real estate purchases that are all being, excuse me, transitioned into studio sound stages.
That's right. That's right.
Those are also great entry level places to come in as a PA, especially if you want to work in operations, studio operations. That can lend you to these type of jobs, whether you're rigging a stage. A lot of stages, Coyote stages, have their own grip and electric departments. So they
Yes.
need people to manage the rentals and
Yes.
manage transpo. Now the Coyote's got not just one spot in Hollywood, they've got spaces all over. They need their trucks to load and transport gear to other
Mhm.
shows around town. There's
Mm.
going to be huge sound stages being built at Santa Monica off of Wilton. Radford's about to explode and become a lot bigger. So keep an eye on when those facilities start hiring even PA jobs or intern jobs, because just getting in can help you then be in the system so that when opportunities, hey, they're hiring some lighting people over for the stages on Radford, you're in the system already, or keep an eye out for those kind of jobs.
One of the things that I
Also,
think is so important
go ahead.
is that when you're on a job at whatever level you're at, does not matter. You are auditioning not just for the person who hired you, but you're
Right.
auditioning for the other 40 people in the room.
That's right.
right? So people are like, oh, how do I get to this so-and-so, so-so? Go mop the floor.
This is a
Because all 40
recommendation
people in the
business.
room will have an opportunity to say, hey, that person over there is doing is really about their business.
They anticipated, they were able to kind of see how things work and not need to be told to go pick up trash, not to be told to, hey, you
They
see
weren't
somebody loading gear in your department, you step up and be like, what do you need me to do? I
can I-
don't, yeah, do you need me to do anything? How can I help? Just that alone, other departments see that, I agree.
every person in the room sees you, and some of them are going to become executives, producers,
Yeah.
department heads, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I don't know anything about this, but I was at dinner with a friend. They're looking for a person in costume, and I thought about you because I really liked working with you on the last job.
Yeah. That's so much of how this business works. And
Totally.
it's relationship building, and a way that you can start those relationship building, I think as well, is if you live in LA, if you live in a city center where there's a lot of production, um, go and thought of film festivals. Honestly, most people think about film festivals for the actors or for the directors, but people that are below the line that are looking to meet is going and watching a lot of short films, because a lot of those short filmmakers are about to make their first TV show or their first feature.
That's right.
And if
That's
you
right.
like what they make, if you like the vibe that you feel, it's a great way to have little business cards or have your electronic, and find the filmmakers that you think are dope, that are on the come up, that are making cool stuff.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, when you need help on set, hit me up. I'm down. Even if you just want to party for a day, you're just going to do some test footage for a day. People remember that stuff. The other area that I think is really helpful is where the job listings are. So places that have casting notices, awesome,
Yes.
soon will be crewing up. So if you go to like backstage.com,
Yes.
crew me up, is mandy.com, and productionhub.com. Productionhub.com, mandy.com, crew me up, which is for union and non-union, and backstage. They have show listings. They also have casting listings, because people tend to cast a couple of months before they're about to shoot. So look for, especially if you're in LA, we have more film schools in Southern California, from San Diego to San Francisco, than anywhere in the country.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Start volunteering, stepping into, work on a short film for a weekend, get on set if you have not had any training, or if you're just beginning to PA, now you've got some credits. Oh, I worked on 4 short films. I'm more likely to hire you and put you in a higher, more responsibility.
Because you've been exposed.
Somebody who's coming in for the first time, and you can build your credits with short films, music videos. That more people are making their own music video. More bands are spending $1,000 on their iPhones, and they still need people to hump gear and be hammers and tools. And so navigating how to get in, there's a couple of different ways to think about creating your own opportunity, and jumping on top of where to find who's going to need some scripts and electrics.
Some help, right? And one of the things that I think is important about getting in is to disabuse yourself of the fact that you have to have something in place beforehand. You do not. You do not. As soon as you decide, oh yeah, I want to go become an electric, I want to go become a grip. And for many of the behind the scenes departments, if not all, as soon as you decide that you want to do that, you now have everything you need to get started.
Yeah.
You call blindly 10 times.
Yeah.
Most of the people in the industry know all of these things we're talking about. After you've worked it for a while, you realize it doesn't require brains to start. It requires willingness, be good, stay dedicated. Yeah, I meet a bunch of young people who want to work in the industry. Almost none of them continue to follow up.
It's crazy, right?
I get your
I
number.
have that all
For the last 15 years, I've been saying, sure, absolutely, here it is. But just so you know, most people don't, and it happen and it doesn't work well if you only call once. Keep at it.
I
It doesn't
think
bother
that's
me.
a factor because I think people think it's an immediate transaction.
Oh
And
no.
it's the other way around, right? It's
No.
about you being at the top of my list when the opportunity comes.
On
It's
that
not
day,
that I'm going to have an opportunity when you hit me up. It's
right.
about staying in touch and just checking in and saying, how are things going once in a while? Just, hey, here's some stuff I worked on lately. I wanted to send you my updated list of credits, or hey, I got to work on this music video. I thought it came out cool. I thought you maybe want to know about it. And they gave me my first shot at like being a best boy. I'm learning how to be a best boy. Sometimes I'll have grips that have worked up under me as they're starting to train to become best boy or lead, to email me about how I budget things.
Oh yes.
And my brain about budgeting because they're starting to learn that part of what you're, how they, because that's the person that tends to work with the production office and the budgeting
Yes.
team the
Yes.
most. I
The best
love people
boy,
to take that.
for those who don't know, the best boy is the one who basically, if I'm a department head, is my right hand administrator, manager of the schedules, of the budgets, of the invoices, things like that.
Is there any sidebar? Is there any political conversation around changing best boy to best person, or are people using the words best girl
I
and
still
best
hear best boy. I think I
just
heard
best boy?
in the last month, I have heard once or twice best girl or
People are still
but
kind of figuring out what's right, but most women I work with call themselves best boys.
yeah. We're all a product of our environment, and I don't hold it against
Yeah.
anybody. It's slowly
Where it is.
changing.
I love the idea that more and more women. There was Desi Coles is a fantastic female gaffer that I have had the opportunity to work with a couple times. And she's a great person to reach out to, especially if you are identifying female and want to learn more, because the women are helping each other and a lot of word of mouth. Those people are really prioritizing getting more identifying women into the space. So reaching out, using social media to reach out to those people who are approachable. If you ask nicely and you ask for a question, or hey, can we talk for 15 minutes? I'm getting in the game. I'd love some advice. We're busy, but in between shows, I try to answer and help people as much as I can. And so if you understand and you're a patient that it might take a while for somebody to get back to you, reaching out and making yourself available. You never know when you're going to call at midnight. Because this is how first opportunities happen. It's how my career started.
A lot of times, that's
started
right.
as a day player. And jobs happen when somebody else gets sick, has to leave a show. My kids are sick at home. I can't come to set today. Day playing is how you come up. And you're not necessarily going to get full gigs right away. But the people who get full gigs faster are people who day played for other people.
Yes. And when I get messages from people, oh, hey, so I'm just being in touch. It is important not to ask me to do work.
That's right.
Send me a be in touch message. Tell me what you're up to. Tell me you're just reaching out so that I don't forget you.
I saw your new movie. I thought it was great. I loved how you did this.
But if you ask me to do work, that's a problem. Hey, Christian, call me back on Tuesday. Can we talk? I just want to be in touch.
Right.
No, that's not how that
That's
works. Being in touch has a minor skill there that some people misinterpret. You don't want to ask the person to have to work, to set time aside.
That's a really great way of framing that. I am, people get that admonishment of staying persistent. And what this definition doesn't mean emailing me all the time and expecting me to email you in real time. It's understanding that people are on set, but when you check in, share your growth, share what you've worked on, or acknowledge something I've worked on, I will probably think of you. Most of us are running our own crew lists in the background, and it's a referral business. And I don't know when the opportunity is going to come. The objective is for me to know what you know now. So it's like, hey, I've been doing a lot of 3D work. Here's some links to stuff I've been working on. That way, when
Period.
something comes 3 months from now, hey, I'm about to go in, I'm about to make a mocap movie for my first
Yes.
time.
Oh, really?
And
Nice.
it's set on it's like a horror film set on a mocap stage. So it's super
Motion capture, for those who don't know.
motion caption. And so I'm learning a lot. And so my brain's going to who are my guys that have been doing mocap, because that's more
Right.
likely where I'm going to learn, where I'm picking brains as I'm building budgets right now. And when I start
Yeah.
to need now, the stage has their own crew mostly,
Yes.
but we'll have some openings or people. So again,
Yes.
most stages roll their old people, but I'm now thinking about who knows what. And so keeping me up to date of what you've learned, or hey, I just got trained. Hey, I just joined the 728 apprentice program. That means, oh, I can start thinking about that person for small union gigs that are coming up, because
That's
they've
right.
been a non-union indie film person. So
Oh,
I
we're on
love
the
the way
permit
that you
list. Oh, I know
designate.
you're on the permit. Yeah. I wanted
Got my
I
own
really,
truck. That's my favorite email to
that's
get.
right.
I got a truck
That's
out of 2 tons, and I'll give you a deal. That's my favorite email.
Yeah. I found that when I send people, when I'm at my best in terms of marketing, I would
Yeah.
send an update once a month, not once a quarter, or once a year, once a year. And it would be 3 or 4 projects, mostly pictures, so there's not a lot of reading, but a few words if people who wanted to read. And the next day I'd have 2 or 3 jobs, because people would be, oh, I'm working on so-so, you'd be right for that. Let me call you. Literally the
Right.
next day.
Because
This has gone on for years,
happens all the, yeah.
right?
So we start to
Um,
round the corner on this. You started this amazing program for growing film crews across Africa. A
yes.
lot of your master classes seem to be on demand on your website. I know your classes are geared towards filmmakers on the continent. Are there
Yes.
programs there that people in the US would benefit from watching?
From watching, absolutely, because information is useful. And what we do, lightscameradiaspora.org, lightscameradiaspora.org. Um, Basically, I had been working in Nigeria for like 3 years, because doing US acts with a client there. Then it turned into TV, and then I was like, people need to know each other. People want to know each other. So I said, well, I can do that. And literally, that was the amount of thought that went into it. And then several years later, I'm doing that. What it is about, um, there's all these people on both sides of the ocean, where I happen to have been, and as an African American, have an interest and an investment in Africa on a personal level. But it's all these people who want to know each other. And what ends up happening is, uh, we're now growing in a market that is growing tremendously. We are creating opportunities. We are creating opportunities in both directions. But people there want to sell content and distribute here. People here want to sell and distribute and work and go there. Now Sony is doing a deal with Mo Abudu in
Yeah.
Nigeria. Netflix is in 4, 6, 7 countries with
Mhm.
easily doing full-on productions. I've done 3 or 4 over there through Netflix alone. Uh, uh, Amazon Prime is fully invested in Nigeria as of the last 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
in a public way. Um, it's Canal Plus out of France is buying into the region, and South Africa, of course, is on fire regarding the growth of U.S. interest in studios and networks working over there. So what happens on the U.S. side is our lane is sharing U.S. skills with people on the continent, sharing continent opportunities with people on the US side, making those connections. We don't do training per se in the US. I personally do a certain amount of speaking, of mentoring, of bringing people on the set to work on stuff.
Mhm.
But no, that nonprofit is focused on sharing US Africa connection.
Yeah, I think
A
there's
little
great
bit.
opportunity for those interested. And I know I've been a guest master teacher. So, and
Yes,
some of our friends have been. So I was thinking, check out his website, even if you're in the US, because there's some
yes,
great, there's just been you've inspired a ton of great conversation and really encouraging, I don't use the word networking, but you facilitated sparking new creative relationships.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people are finding each other on both sides through your space. So I wanted to make sure and bring that up. And it's for everybody. I think there's great information there.
And now we started, we haven't talked about that part in a while, but we've started, we did workshops for Pavilion Afrique. We've done stuff for South Africa,
So
Producers
cool.
Association through the government, through the president's office in terms of financing. It's spreading out way beyond lighting.
Beautiful to
And
see how your original vision is really manifesting stuff that you were talking about 8, 9 years ago.
It's true.
It's just
I'm
so
so excited.
inspiring to see. It's really foundationally, you've established a foundation that all these things have been growing for a while, and now the convergence is happening. And the little d democratization of storytelling and filmmaking is so exciting, where somebody could take their iPhone and 4 people and tell their story and find the platforms that to the audiences. We don't need permission anymore. And this is the best time if you're thinking about transitioning into a career space here. If you're just starting out, if you've been accountant somewhere else, I'm telling you, there is a job for you in the cruise divisions, because we need good financial responsibility. Staying on budget is the #1 way that you have a successful career in Hollywood. And
that's how you get a call back.
So many job skills from across every landscape that we need, and we need more than ever, because like you said, so many more shows in production everywhere now.
Everywhere. And also, I think in that area, in terms of like international, you might only be interested in your particular home, but as soon as you look around outside, the same opportunities that we talk about in LA or wherever else, you mentioned before we got started that people in Ghana had clicked onto your site. People
They've been coming to LA. Yeah, they've been watching us.
Are looking for ways to grow systems of entertainment industry, whether it's above the line, below the line, post-production, content distribution, marketing, whatever. Half the world has an undeveloped market in relationship to the US market. So you might have a small foot in here looking to grow it. Okay, go to Ghana. Okay, go to Italy. Okay, go to Czechoslovakia. Okay, go to
Poland,
Thailand.
Greece,
Poland.
Tons of production. There's new sound stages in Thailand, and that are massive, mega million dollar, big, huge production facilities. They're doing huge action films over there. And there's a lot of opportunity for those who'd be interested in seeing the world a little bit.
And the line is not as long to get in the door.
That's right. Well,
there's a long line in LA, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people outside of LA, outside of the US major markets, outside of London, the line is not as long. You can go to Thailand and start working tomorrow.
Work immediately. Yeah. We've touched on so many great areas, and you've shared so much knowledge and wisdom. It's been great. So I wanted to kind of land back where we started, in a creative space, and learning about light, how light works. There's a ton of resources at the library where people can read some primary.
Yes.
And there's a ton of stuff online. What's your thought about light, or how people think about light? Do you have places that you would recommend people learn 3-point lighting and some of the fundamentals? I mean, they're all over. Do you have any that you refer to a lot, or refer your juniors to?
I don't books.
Science of light, the art of light.
Okay,
and if you think of any, you can email them to us, and Caroline will add them to the resource guide. But what are those? What you love about light? What light means? How light works?
Okay. So one thing I'll add is that everyone watching this is an expert in lighting, whether they know it or not, because they've lived their entire life looking at stuff, right? So we understand weather, temperature, location, shadow, indoor, outdoor, sun, cloud. We understand a certain level of all of this. So you already have a certain amount of knowledge built in. On a practical scale, we have to become, in lighting, we have to, if we're talking about creative, we have to become aware of our environments. We have to make a conscious effort to expose ourselves to a lot of different things. One of the best educations is to live a lifestyle of exposure. I'm going to go to the park and watch. I'm going to go to the museum and see that show. There's so and so happening in this festival. I'm going to go watch just to watch the setup. I'm going to go to the museum just to look at the paintings. I'm going to go to the fashion show just to see the visual that they put on, right? That fashion shows are literally an entire lifestyle segment in our industry, right?
The largest.
So, and so we have to make sure that we are constantly feeding our imagination so that on the day that we get a call for a so-so situation, we have some ideas to bring to the table.
Yeah.
In terms of books, I don't honestly, I literally, I don't, I have probably 3 lighting books whose names I can't even remember. But I did
If
just get
you find them, you can email them and we'll add them
well,
to the library resource list. Yeah.
one of our guys, okay, I've got 2. I got to remember. One of the guys from Martin Lighting puts out a
Okay.
programmer book about teaching programmers, and it's
Okay.
fantastic.
His
And
name's
then
Martin. Martin, what did you say?
Martin Lighting is the
Okay.
company.
So I'm going to find that. Martin Lighting. Okay.
I got it, and I know it. As soon as I don't want to stop and Google stuff now.
Yeah.
And then Jeff, uh, oh, the last I got to get this. Jeff put out another book. I got to get you his book.
Okay.
He just put that out. It's available on Amazon for $20, $30.
Right.
Union has an electrician's handbook. The
Yeah,
electrician
and we
handbook.
sent that's the IATSE 728, which is
720.
listed. If you bounce around, they have a ton of resources that are
Yeah,
it's public facing on that website.
yeah.
And that handbook is there as well.
Jeff Ravitz is the person I was thinking about, who just
Okay.
published a book uh, uh, on lighting design for multi-camera TV.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
for him.
yeah.
I
Oh, yeah,
bet a multicam. People don't talk enough about multicam because
yeah.
everything's been so cam lately, but it's stage lighting is its own and comedy lighting is its own art form.
Its
And people
own.
aren't even cognizant of how bright and more full world you've got to show when you're doing that
Yes,
kind of comedy and multicam.
yes, yes. That's its own world.
People from theater transition to multicam the easiest. I think it's the
Yes,
closest to theater lighting.
correct, correct. It is because it's more theatrical, stylized, not so much duplicating
Yeah.
realistic
And I
environments.
also think people who move into that side of television can have more steady, like you saying, that's more of the steadier lane of things because a lot of those sets are they work an 8 to 8 day, they work a 10 to 8 day,
Yes,
they tape once a week. It's a much more lifestyle where you can take your kids to school or be
absolutely.
home with kids for dinner, and you're getting a check kind of every Friday. For 6 months, it's a way more steady gig. You're not traveling. You
That's
drive to the same parking lot, the same parking spot every day.
that's
That's definitely a good one for people who are growing their families while they're working, don't want to travel too much,
that's
want
right.
a little steadier gig. They're harder to get because people don't bounce as much. When somebody gets a good set job that's on a
Right.
soundstage,
Aren't as
they
many openings.
stay.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and in that same vein, there's a lifestyle thing in the live event world that's good where you may only be on set. This was my reality for a while. You may only be on set 10 days out of the month. The other 20 days, I'm home with the kids. I'm
Right.
prepping, I'm emailing, I'm plans and drafting,
Designing. You're
but
actually designing.
I'm designing, but I'm actually working out of my home. That's another
Right.
version of lifestyle that works well, right?
Yeah, event based because it's a lot of prep for. I think fashion has this a lot.
Yeah.
More and more fashion events are becoming interactive
Oh,
events,
yes.
and they're doing a lot more film in fashion. Especially COVID, fashion film exploded because they
Yes.
couldn't do their live events and it got even bigger. But these live activations are all light. It's all light projection,
That's right.
visuals, holograms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing
Thank
everything today. It's good to see you.
It's great to see you, as
We'll be on
always.
set together again soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
Happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you very
We
much.
want to thank everybody for joining us today and all through the fall. Have a great holiday season, and hopefully we'll see you again in the spring. Thank you,
And-
Caroline. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Kimberly. Always a pleasure and glad to help. ChristianEpps.com is my website, my phone number.
Yes.
Reach out, be, like we talked about, be cool about how you do it. Reach out.
Be cool.
Be cool. All right, bye.
Yeah, and you'll see me at Hollywood Shorts is open across social media platforms. We have opened our DMs. For those of you who want to contact us directly, just realize we're going on vacation in 5 minutes. So I might not
Exactly.
until January. This is my last event of the year. Woo woo.
Mine too.
But cheers. But I will be seeing your incoming and look forward to getting to know you guys next season.
Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you so much. Just to close out here, thank you, Kimberly and Christian. We have a cajillion thank yous in the chat about how informative this was. It really was like so exciting to hear everything. So I'm so grateful for both of you and your time. If just to reiterate, this presentation was recorded, and so I'll be sending everybody a link to the recording on YouTube when it's all exported and loaded up, as well as a list of all the resources. And we had some folks in the chat too. Thank you so much for sharing other resources.
Yeah, Sorensen
really
had
cool.
a lot of great stuff. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Chris Sorensen, thank you so much. So I copied those, so I'll add them to the resource list to everybody as well, so you have that. This is the last event in the series just for this year, but we are working on scheduling more, so stay tuned. And if you have any ideas about other kinds of professions you want to see featured as a part of this series, please share it with us. We will definitely look out for those and see if we can schedule that in for 2022. If you want to see past event recordings and resource lists in this series so far, I'm going to put the website in the chat so you can learn about all the other kind of jobs that we went through or roles that we went through as well. And if you're interested in participating in more of our upcoming virtual programs, please visit us at lacountylibrary.org. Have a great weekend and happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.